Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun,
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abi.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
Here I am, rock you like a hurricane.
Okay, this is my favorite. It's either What's Up Connected Life Peeps or what is that, like 90s grunge metal or something?
It was like 80s.
I don't know what song you're singing. I'm not actually sure. I've never
Really?
heard it before. Or if I have heard it, your version didn't sound enough like it
It's
for
so
me
bad
to know.
because I can't sing. Not a lick. Yeah, I can't sing. It's true.
That's okay.
Well, you know what's fun about today?
What?
This is our second time of starting this podcast. Now, for those of you who have listened for any amount of time, you know that we've had some of those fumbles.
Oh, yeah. There's been multiple times we've had to start podcasts over. Sometimes
Because,
several times. Most of the time because Justin makes a mistake.
oh, that's only because I
It's not
used to
even true.
run everything.
It's not even true. It wasn't ever your fault. The truth is I made as many mistakes
No,
as you.
I did too. But it was really fun because today neither of us made a mistake. Brian, our video guy, made a mistake. Thanks,
threw
Brian.
him
Under the bus.
That was a real bus throw.
But here's what's fun about that.
We got to do it again.
We get to do it all again. I get to spend more time with you. And really, you get to spend more time with me.
Oh,
So
which
you,
I love.
yeah, so you
And I
can
feel
thank
happy
Brian
about.
for that.
Yep. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
He gave a thumbs up for those of you who can't
He's
see.
like, "Mwah."
Yeah.
Brian was funny because he hid under the table before and he's hiding under the table now. And we'll get into why he was hiding under the table.
I don't know. I didn't see him hiding under the table.
Oh, yeah. Maybe you had walked out.
Uh-huh.
Not in a fury, by the way. You
No, I
really
went to go to
held
the
up
bathroom.
really well. You're like, I'm going to go take a walk and go to the bathroom and I'll be back to do this.
Well, it just happened I had to pee, so it's great
yeah, no,
timing.
I mean, I think you felt really great about it.
Yeah.
But he did hide under the table after that. And we're going to talk about Brian hiding under the table just after this.
That's part of our episode.
It is part of
Yeah,
our episode.
That
It's
makes
really
sense.
great.
It makes sense why he did that after what we were talking about.
Yeah, it's great. So to kick things off, I want to talk about our friend Forrest, who is in town. Now, if you guys have listened to The Connected Life at any level, at any
level,
any
that's
amount
not
of
true.
time,
You'd have to
if you
listen
listened
for a while. Yeah.
maybe that's a better way to say it.
Yeah.
Thanks for helping me
He
out
was only
there.
really on one episode, I think. So, but
One-
he was
one or
in
two.
he was in the Father series also.
Yeah, Forrest was in the Father
Mhm,
series.
which
Yeah.
I would highly recommend doing.
Yeah, it's an incredible series.
Mhm.
Anyways, so Forrest, he's an adventurer extraordinaire who
He is.
loves doing all kinds of wild things. So he's known for living off the land in
Mhm.
Hawaii
Yep.
with his
He's
family.
like saved like 6 people's lives. I call
Uh-huh.
him like a modern day Tarzan.
Mhm.
He jumps from tree to tree to tree, and then he deep dives in the ocean and swims with sharks and whales and spearfishes.
I don't know if he swam with whales.
He has.
Has he really?
I saw the video.
He swam with a whale?
I was so jealous.
How do I not know about that?
I know.
Of course.
He has. Yes, of course.
He swam with a whale.
He swam with whales.
Whales, classic Forrest.
Classic Forrest.
So anyways,
It makes me think I should name my kid something adventurous like that. Like his name's Forrest, and then he's like
isn't that
adventurous.
interesting that they named him Forrest and then he
Yeah.
ends up being this guy that like climbs
Man of the
coconut
forest.
trees with his bare hands and feet and then
Yeah,
grabs coconuts.
that's what I'm saying.
It is fascinating. Anyways, so Forrest dropped by
Mm-hmm.
the other night on
we
his
loved.
birthday.
I know.
And-
Delightful.
And damn it, Forrest, you didn't even tell us it was your birthday. I was like,
yeah, we
like,
were
I didn't
caught
even
off
know it was your
guard.
birthday till I opened
Yep.
up social media after you left.
Social
But
media. Lets
He
you know
came
all the
over
things.
and did a cold plunge with me,
Yes, which is so fun.
which, by the way, he was not stoked for, but he did do
Yes,
because he is adventurous.
he's
He
so
was,
adventurous.
he's willing to jump in.
Yep.
But before we jumped in and did the cold plunge, I took him into my nerd cave,
Mm.
this magical wonderland of action figures that just surround you and just stares you
This
down.
magical wonderland of action figures.
And I'm convinced after Toy Story that they do come alive at night.
Oh yeah, probably so.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
uh-huh.
but here's the thing. So he went in.
Yeah. And the first thing he said was, Wow.
Yeah. And here's the thing. This is the difference between me and them. I'd be like, wow. And they'd be like, wow. When I say they, it's every man who's ever gone into the man cave. There is not one adult man who goes into your man cave that isn't like,
men.
Yeah.
Who are like, wow. I love Ninja Turtles as a kid.
Yes.
G.I. Joe.
Thundercats.
He-Man and Masters of the Universe. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
So it just goes on and on, right?
Yep. People get so excited. And one of our friends went down and like instantly remembered, oh, I used to dream. Like as a kid, I used to love these action figures and I dreamed of having them. And they were like, I need to go get one. Like they felt sparked and their creativity felt sparked. And
our friend Trey got so sparked that he ended up recently getting some Lego sets. A couple that were very spendy, and now he may have some issues with Gabby that he has to work out.
Yeah, but it's addictive when you find these. They're almost like time travel passages back to your childhood.
Ooh, yeah.
There's things that you can do. There's actual physical.
It's like the Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe.
Like
Straight
the
into Narnia, baby. Right back into our history.
Well, toys can take you
they
back.
can do that.
Yeah.
That's why the guys that are like in their 80s and have train sets and they just stand there conducting their train.
Totally. They're living their best lives.
I'm a kid again.
Yes. Okay. Now, here's the thing. You really hacked the system, though. And I wish I could hack it the same way as you. Because when you were a kid, you your room was in the basement. I mean, I guess
I was locked in the basement and I lived down there in the darkness.
Okay. So your room was in the basement and your safest place to be was in the basement with your action figures by yourself. Yeah. And then as an adult, what you did is you bought a house where you found a way to make a basement room.
And I was so bummed when I first bought the house. I'm like, I don't have the big room I want for my action figures.
And then you found a place that you could make one.
Build one under the house.
You built one under the house so that you can be in the basement alone with your action figures. But the actual beauty, like it's funny, but it is actually psychology.
I thought you were going to say psychotic. I was like, oh, yeah, that too.
No, psychology is that you found a way to connect to safety as a kid, and you found a way as an adult to reconnect to safety through that same means. And one of the ways that we have emotional resilience in our life is through doing things that help us connect to safety, that help us connect to a sense of joy, a sense of creativity, a sense of wonder. It's actually healing for your nervous system. It's not just this stupid thing of like, let's all have childlike wonder. It's actually this thing that we have to do as an antidote to the trauma and the hardships that we endure. The weird thing is, though, is that we, as adults, when we go through trauma and hardships, we shut down our creativity and our joy and our ability to feel safe. And so the first thing we do in trauma oftentimes is to quit the things that bring us life.
Yep.
Because when we're unsafe, it's hard. When I feel unsafe, like the other day when we were trying to record our podcast and we were in a fight, normally I'm so creative about all the kinds of episodes we could do and all the different things we could talk about.
You're like, we do this and that and this and that.
Yeah, my ideas overwhelm you. You're like, quit shotgun blasting me with ideas.
Calm down.
That's too many. But that day I could think of none.
Yeah.
Because I was in self-protection.
Yep.
My threat system was activated, and so my creativity was shut down. And so one of the things that we actually need in life to counteract the hardships of being an adult is to find ways to still enjoy and engage that childlike part.
Yes. It's interesting because the other night we were watching Superstore, right? And there's this moment in Superstore where they all get locked in for the night.
Accidentally.
Yeah. Season 1. And everyone is so bummed out. They're frustrated about it. They're just
grumpy.
like, they're grumpy. They're shut down. They don't want to do anything whatsoever. And one of the characters is like, I'm going to go have fun. And he's wanting to just engage the entire world. Like, we can do anything we want in here tonight.
And he's living his best life. Yes.
Absolutely. He's like riding around on an electric bike and doing crazy stuff.
But no one would join him.
No, not whatsoever. No one would join him until alcohol got brought into the situation.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, woo-hoo-hoo-hoo, drink it up. And then a party breaks loose. And all of a sudden, their unhidden selves come out and they begin to actually be authentic to their personalities.
Side
their
come up.
goofiness,
They're
their uninhibited.
Their self-consciousness dies down, and and this is why people become alcoholics. It's honestly true. I have a lot of friends who became alcoholics because they felt like themselves without their inhibitions.
I can never be myself unless I'm drinking. You know?
And so one of the things, but it's so important, obviously, that we learn how to be our authentic selves.
You're saying without alcohol?
Yeah.
That's the silliest thing I've ever heard.
I know.
I'm done with this podcast.
Well, it's so funny because I have several friends that are recovering alcoholics.
Yeah.
And they actually didn't know how to have fun without alcohol.
Yeah.
And they didn't know you could. And I was like dying laughing because I can't drink because of my diet.
Yeah.
And so because of my health issues, I'm not like on a diet, but like the health issues I have make it so that I can't drink. And so ADD brain, I can't drink. I cannot drink. Oh, so, and there's tons of events that they're like, well, what do you do at something like this? Or like, how do you have fun at this?
I take care of people throwing up in toilets.
But there is a strength that you get when you have to learn how to build this connection to your authentic self.
Yeah, it's like building a personality.
That sounds very overwhelming.
Well, I'm saying like in high school and in middle school, I wasn't necessarily the most attractive kid or the most fit kid. So I had to build a personality.
Oh.
I had to find a way to fit in and try and find and develop some sort of charisma to make up for this thing that I felt very rejected over inside of stuff. And there's something about having to actually work a muscle in an area of fun and build it. Like you can't just like skate by. You actually have to participate inside of the journey and create it. Anyways, you have to find your personality inside of life.
Yeah, you have to find your wonder.
Yeah. And that's found with that kid self, right? That childlike self. Like as we're growing up, you're talking about safety and stuff like that and trauma. As pain and trauma and insecurity starts happening, we keep shutting that down more and more because we're like, oh no, being that part of myself, expressing myself as a kid in that kid-like way, that's not safe. I'm weak.
It feels vulnerable.
It's a weakened state to participate inside of. And so we start progressively and unconsciously working our way away from that.
Or even like, I didn't have judgments that it was weak. That wasn't what I
think a lot of people do. But
I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, it's an aspect.
But for me, I didn't have judgments that it was weak. For me, it was much more that I just got so busy with the important adult things.
Yeah.
Or I got so locked in shame or depression or anxiety in my body. So for me, a lot of the reasons that I would disconnect from childlike wonder or creativity or play is because of negative emotions or busyness.
Yeah.
Of like, I have too much to do, or I feel too locked up inside of myself to do that. And so then the goal is, how do I find ways to be safe enough that I can let down my guard again? Because a lot of times for me, if my childlike wonder is gone, the places that it comes out the most for me is the places I feel the most unconditionally loved.
Yes.
Or that I'm around somebody else who they're not judging themselves. So they feel very like comfortable being themselves, and they feel comfortable letting you be yourself. Like judgment, I think any kind of judgment, like even if you think about creativity, if you're brainstorming and there's somebody in the room that's like, that idea is dumb, then you're not going to want to share your ideas. But if you're in a room where you're brainstorming and everybody is like, oh, that's a great idea. And what about this? And what about this? And what about this? But that's hard to do. Even for me as an adult, I sometimes want to be like, that's a dumb idea.
I mean, you want to, or sometimes
I do. I do. Let's just totally tell on myself here. I definitely have reactions
Here comes
like that.
Justin throwing another person under the bus today.
Can you do the noise again?
Sound of your body getting hit by it.
Yep.
I do remember as a kid, at a young age, as I got made fun of over and over again, deciding that there's something inherently bad about me, and that all of that playfulness and that wonder shutting down.
Yeah.
Like people being like, grow up, you're so ridiculous. I mean, they used other words.
I was like, what middle school did you go to? They're like, you're being preposterous.
Absurd. You're absurd, sir.
I would love to go to a school where those are the put downs. That'd be so funny.
He called me absurd.
Sir.
But no, there was a lot of that thrown around, and I progressively was like, oh, I'm not safe to be goofy and playful. That's way too vulnerable. And it's interesting because that expression of myself, honestly, found its, let me see how to put it. It found its freedom to reemerge after we got married. And I will say this, that you were a profound instigator in my childlike wonder being reignited inside of my life. And I can honestly say that there was the safety of you being like, you're so adorable. And I'd be like, shut up. You're so cute. I loved it about you. You're so cute. And I'm like, but
you sound like I did baby talk to you. Well, it wasn't condescending.
No. But there was cuteness to it at times. I'm like, that's so cute.
No,
I
did think it was so cute.
Yeah. No, I never once.
I felt overwhelmed by it.
Yes.
Your cuteness.
You communicated over and over again. I am so delighted. Like it delights me to see these expressions from the ways that I will do voices, like characters on TV and stuff like that.
Or like kitty cats.
Or meow like a cat.
Yeah.
Meow.
Yeah. It still brings me so much joy.
But as I did that, I found that suddenly there was the word acceptable being rewritten over a part of who I am. And I remember when we first got married, I'll go back to the action figure collection. I think that this plays a role in it because I was like, I really want to go like buy these new G.I. Joes that are coming out that are fully articulated. This is the coolest thing ever, right? But I mean, like,
I still laugh that I live in a world where I married somebody that was like, they're fully articulated. And that does not mean they communicate well. That means that their body parts move.
All their body parts.
Just now you just sound like a creep. You can't make jokes about kids' toys.
They're not kids' toys. You take that back. They're adult collectibles. Anyways, but there was something where when I wanted to go purchase them, and that there was a part of me that felt shame about that as I was connecting into that kid part of me. And you were like, I love it. Do it. You need to go collect that and do that thing. And, you could have inserted any other circumstance there. Instead of action figures, it could have been like mountain climbing gear, because that's what I did with my dad all the time. You're like, you need to do that. Yeah. But there was a championing that you did of this part of me. And I said, oh, it's okay for me to fully be seen.
Yeah.
And that started emerging out of my life. And again, it was an environment of safety and love and a higher truth about who I was that provoked a reemerging of that part of myself in one aspect. There were other aspects, but that played a role in it.
I think that childlikeness is contagious. So I had a friend when I was so sick. And she loved adventuring and was you instantly knew. And she was so full of wonder, and she would and so when you're around her, it's almost like they give you permission to be more childlike. And part of it is to quit looking for people who are too cool for school. Like, oftentimes.
Absolutely.
So our image on the outside often stifles us from being our inner child.
Yeah.
And so like she was not too cool for school.
No, not at all.
She was like, I just want to live and be alive and interact and have fun. And so it would pull me out of my own depression and sickness and inability to do much in life. And it would pull me into remembering that there was fun and you could have playfulness, and people like that can make anything fun. You know what I mean? Like, I remember sitting on the couch with her playing a word puzzle, playing solitaire together with her on her phone. Like, sounds so boring. But with fun people, anything can be fun.
You know what? Go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, no, I was just going to say. So the idea is like, sometimes I've been in seasons where I couldn't get there on my own.
Yeah.
And so being around somebody, it's almost like you can catch their wave. You can catch the airflow from them flying in the front of the V. And then you can start to help it engage because when you're talking about my childlikeness when we got married, it was contagious.
Yes.
And really the reason it's contagious is because if I'm not judging me for being this way, I won't judge you for being this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a note about Lauren. Like you were talking about Lauren. Lauren is a person who's been a missionary to Africa and seen
Worked
a lot
with sex trafficking victims.
Seen a lot of darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just that she's just some whimsical person that's disconnected from the reality of the horrors of life that we all go through.
Mm-hmm.
She's someone that's very aware.
She looks for and chooses into adventure.
Yep. She chooses the beauty of life.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that's so profound because this deliberate engagement of that part of herself ends up actually fueling her capacity to love radically well and to dream. I mean, she's a person that's like, all right, I'm going to go to another spot in Africa and I'm going to take off and change my entire life again. Again, she's connected to that childlikeness inside of herself that is connected to a radical trust.
Right.
Because really part of the best expression of childlikeness is trust. Like trust comes out. Kids are just like, I guess it's great. The world's great. Everything's going to be okay. They believe that they're being taken care of.
Yes.
And that's something that she has an agreement with is trust.
Some kids do if they have good circumstances.
Correct. I'm saying before circumstances have crushed the spirit of a child.
For kids who have a time before the circumstances have crushed them. Yeah. There's trust there.
Yeah, there's trust there.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was thinking as you were sharing about this counseling session that I just had with my counselor this week. And so she was talking to me and because I was thinking about a lot of times when I'm not childlike, it's because I'm thinking about too much, thinking through all the things I need to do or all the things I need to be or the image that I should be. Or I think we can get locked into shoulds about us and where we're at and what we're feeling.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't processing that with her, but I was just in this conversation thinking through, that's one of the things that can shut down my childlike wonder. A lot of childlike wonder is intuitive. It's being free to do what you're actually wanting to do. It's being free to, if you want to laugh. If you want to tackle someone, tackling them in an appropriate way.
If you want to excitedly jump up and down randomly at a moment that feels exciting to you, you do it.
Yeah. So childlike wonder is that freedom of inhibition. And I've been thinking about how kids, they actually do a lot to regulate their nervous systems without them understanding that that's what they're doing. Now, it's not all fun because they will do things like freak the F out because they're nervous. They're like, But even that, like I'm working with adults trying to teach them like, hey, emotion is like energy in your body. And when you feel it and you get locked up, you have to do something to release that energy.
I was just imagining that like you got a CEO in the middle of a work day and he's standing there and he's just overwhelmed and he's just like, he's like, I will not inhibit my child self. I am letting this go.
Totally. Well, there is something that you know how kids can bounce back faster than adults? So like they might be really sad about something, but then in a few minutes they're like, oh, gum.
Yeah, it's kind of like the dog.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're good again.
Yeah, they're like, I really wanted that toy. Ah! And then like 5 minutes later, they're like living their best life, playing a totally different game, haven't remembered. And I think that a lot of that is because they are getting out the energy, the release of the emotions that are stuck in their body. Now, obviously, if they don't get help, they don't learn how to regulate, and that can become painful for them.
Sure.
But there is that thing of being able to actually do what they need.
Yeah.
And there's a place as a kid where you still believe you're allowed to do what you need. Like you can just go stand in the corner and poop if you need to. Like
I want to do that.
That's what kids do that. You know what I mean? Because they just do what they want to do when they want to do it.
Yeah.
I was just talking to somebody today and she's telling me about her 3-year-old. I'm getting back to my counseling session in a second, but she's talking to me about her 3-year-old, and her 3-year-old loves to headbutt.
Is this Tembe?
No.
Oh.
No. This 3-year-old loves to headbutt and is headbutting all the time. And so he headbutted her, and it hurt, as it would hurt, because kids' heads are as hard as heart.
I just want to headbutt people. That sounds fun. Just run around headbutting stuff.
Yeah, there's
like
some parts of it are helpful to becoming an adult and getting your prefrontal cortex fully developed. But so he headbutt her, and then she responded like, "Ow, that really hurt. That hurt me," and he instantly felt shame, and so he just went and buried his head in the chair and just like hid. And I was thinking about that sensation as kids. You just do, your body does what you feel with the emotion.
Yeah.
Like you just do it. And then he like buried himself with the covers and literally just did not want to be seen. And she was telling me how it was like a moment where she recognized God's heart towards us. She's like, how many times do we do something and we then want to hide in shame and we want to disconnect because we feel bad? But I was standing there just being like, I want him to look me in the eyes so I can tell him I love you and it's okay. It's okay that I'm hurt and that you're hurt. Like, I love you. I haven't stopped loving you. Like, she just felt so like she wanted to show him how loved he was in that moment. But he wasn't responding. And she's like, oh, that's what God's heart is for us when we hide in shame. But I was thinking about that story of him just like, he just threw himself on the couch and did what his body wanted to do. It's
interesting. That's what Brian did today. Also, that made me think of the first time I looked at porn.
Interesting.
Wow. What a curve in the road. But the first time I happened to be like, I don't know, I think 6 years old or 7. I was at my aunt's house and I was like trying to build like a fort in her bedroom, and I found a Playboy magazine under her bed. Oh. And she walked in at that time, and I didn't know what I was looking at. You know, I was just like, oh, weird feelings are happening inside of me. And
don't sound like a dirty old man.
That wasn't what that was. But she was like, oh, Justin, that was here from the last people who lived here. Right? She's like totally freaking out, right?
Of course. She has shame.
But I immediately got up and I ran. I had my whole body got overtaken with fear and shame
and punishment.
And I ran out the door of her trailer and went running down to the end of the trailer park and just hid.
Yeah.
And then I come back and I sit down at the table and she's like made my favorite food.
She reinforced here the way you work through your emotions is to eat something that is delicious.
That was my addiction for years. Honestly, I think that's where this started.
That?
No.
Oh, I knew.
No, but right now I'm like, oh shit, that's where that started.
Yeah, you got comfort because you felt, here's what happened. You were afraid of disconnection.
Yeah.
You're afraid you're going to be punished. You were afraid you were going to be bad.
Absolutely.
And when you came back, the way she showed you that she loved you still and that there was warmth and that she wasn't shunning you was through food. So then you started feeling like you could feel safe and loved in food.
So she did
Do
give
you
me...
want to cry now? Is this a big revelation?
No. No, I don't. But it is a good revelation.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So years of food addiction, all solved in one episode of The Connected Life. You're welcome, Justin.
Yeah.
But at that point, then I also like sat there for a few minutes and she tried to talk things through with me. And then all of a sudden I said, I'm tired. And I put my head down right there at the table.
Yeah.
Buried my head in my arms.
Which is actually, again, a sign, I would say not as much. I mean, it's nice that we can do what we want as kids, but that's a sign that your nervous system was overloaded.
Totally.
You actually needed help to be able to regulate your emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. And there you have, as a kid, I had this full body reaction. Whereas adults, we would just be like, I'm just going to lock it up inside of my body right now.
Mm-hmm.
I will stay in this moment.
I'll look fine on the outside.
I'll look fine on the outside. Instead of screaming and just being like, I'm running out of this office now. I don't feel safe. Ah!
Well, and here's the funny thing is like, there's a real, obviously we have to learn how to do this in balance.
Absolutely.
But there is something to finding ways to be congruent with our own body. And that actually brings up the counseling session I had this week.
Yeah.
Which was, I was talking to my counselor and she's like, sometimes you are smiling, but I don't feel like you're smiling on the inside. Like sometimes you're smiling on the outside, but I feel like a lot is going on behind that.
I get that feeling often from you. Usually when I've done something.
I'm not really trying to smile to be warm. You know, I'm like trying to not look like cold death glare. So, but it's a forced smile.
Yeah.
It's like anyway, so she was like, I'd like you to do this activity. I want you to smile. We're just going to take that thing that you do and we're just going to exaggerate it. And I just want you to smile as big as you can and hold it. And so I did. I just smiled. And then I was like, oh, I hate this. This feels horrible. My mouth is hurting. My face is hurting. I don't want to do this. Am I supposed to keep doing this? And then I was like, I don't want to do this. So I stopped.
Yeah.
And then I just sat there and I was so relieved to have my face back to normal and to get to feel like this is what I feel on the inside and this is what I feel on the outside. And then I opened my eyes and she's like, tell me about what happened. And I told her and she's like, that's awesome. You did what your body wanted to do because you were more aware of what you wanted to do than you were aware of what I was wanting from you.
Yeah, come on.
And I was like, yeah. So then I had another emotion come up a couple minutes after that. And she's like, well, what does your body want to do with that emotion? And I was like, what does my body want to do? And then I instantly knew. I knew my body wanted to do this. I was feeling anxiety about, she was asking me a bunch of questions and it felt like I wasn't like, it felt like in situations when you're a kid and you can't win is what I felt like was happening. And so I just buried myself and I just covered myself and it felt so good to do this. It felt so good to just like hide and get to hold my arms close and get to comfort myself. And then she was like, I bet it feels so good to not be seen right now. And I bet you feel so happy to protect yourself. And I was like, yes. And then I literally could feel like I focused on the body sensation. I focused on how good it felt to do what I wanted. Because that's part of how you can move through emotions in your body is do the thing that you are wanting to do and focus on the feeling that releases and then allow yourself to release. So for me, that was I wouldn't say this works in the same regards with porn. That's not what I'm talking about doing what you want to do. but like for sensations of like, if I have anxiety, I've done where I've gone and laid in the bathtub because it feels containing, like it's bigger than me and I'm safe in there. Or sometimes I've gone and laid under the covers and covered myself up. A lot of times this is when I'm feeling freeze or anxiety or overwhelm. And I'll literally just lay or I'll cover up or I'll have the thing over my blankets over my head. And then I'll just think about how good it feels that I can do the thing I want to do to take care of my body the way I want to take care of my body. And it was amazing. So when I did that, I all of a sudden could feel the emotions that were underneath my anxiety. Yeah. I all of a sudden could tap into the like authentic part of me. Wow. What was going on. Before that, I just had a wall of anxiety where I couldn't think through what was happening. I didn't want to say anything. And then when I was safe enough, all of a sudden I could connect to my true, authentic feelings. And this is something that I think is a part of being childlike. It's not that you now, obviously, in the middle of a conversation, I wouldn't do that with somebody.
Sure.
I wouldn't just be like, you're talking to me about something and I'm like, ah! But something that I might do in a conversation is be like, wow, I'm having a lot of shame. You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of being a kid and just wanting to cover up. And I might playfully do something like that. Mm-hmm. Or I might go home and do something like that when I'm by myself. But that feeling of congruence, that feeling, it was such a euphoric release for me when my body got to do what I felt on the inside. When I got to say, I feel scared, so I'm going to protect myself. Or in the past when I was angry, it doesn't work with all actions. So you kind of have to, there's some parameters. Like if I'm really angry, punching doesn't always release it.
Yeah.
But I might slow-mo. That's one of the best ways. If you have an action you want to do, I might slow-mo punch, which is like very, very, very slow, like having all of my muscles tightened the whole time, all the way, thinking through the whole thing, and then punching like that. Like that is a good way to get to release the energy the way that you're wanting to. Or heel stomps. Like there's just a lot of things that help us move through our emotions that we learned as kids. But that divorce between, even what my counselor is talking about, the divorce between my insides looking like this and my outsides looking like this, that disconnect where there's two different things happening, that creates division inside of ourselves, and that disconnects us from our childlike wonder, and it disconnects us from our creativity and our joy and from love.
I was thinking how many, I mean, like the number's countless of how many clients came through my office that literally were like, I don't feel much of anything. Mm-hmm. I'm not very expressive at all. Mm-hmm. Like if you were to bring me one of my favorite foods right now or a gift that I've always wanted, the best you're going to probably get out of me is like, oh, cool, thanks. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I watched for years as I helped people walk through this process of being so disconnected from that kid inside that they weren't, the temperature wasn't hot and it wasn't too cold. It was a lukewarm existence internally.
Right, because then you can't be criticized.
No, you can't be criticized.
If you do nothing, like I used to want to be invisible. So I don't want to get excited because then you could make fun of me.
Right.
I don't want to be sad because then you could make fun of me. Like emotions make you vulnerable.
They do.
And so is what we feel. Now, actually, when you feel emotions, sometimes that makes me feel less vulnerable.
It also creates invitations for other people to express that and gives them all permission. Mm-hmm. And it creates an environment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. So a lot of times they'll live in that shut down life where they can't fully express themselves until they're willing to also not only, they have to, this is the other side of this coin actually that I was going to say. There's an aspect of they don't want to have to feel the pain that is also associated with that kid part of ourselves. Because you're talking about kids, and kids are willing to feel their pain, like actually feel it, right?
They're like,
ah! Like we said earlier, tears are coming all over the place. And then they're like, okay, I got it out. It's good. And now I get to go have pleasure. Yay, pleasure. But it's like this offense that we have towards our pain inside of ourselves also kills the joy, the access to the joy inside of it. And so, like one of the things that I challenge people, I'm like, if you ever want to get to actually living a life where you feel the joy, you're going to have to get to the part of the kid that also feels the pain. Yeah. And those two things, you don't have to have only feeling pain in life.
No.
In fact, if you can feel your pain, you should
feel
also
joy more.
Be able to access the joy more. And those things should go hand in hand.
Yeah. And oftentimes we learn one path or the other. We learn to feel only happy or we learn to feel only sad. And so I've had to learn how to be able to
bridge the gap.
And that takes some effort to learn how to do both. And it's okay if you have to learn that. A lot of us didn't learn how to emotionally regulate. And so we weren't sure what to do in order to feel both. So I give myself permission. It's okay that I'm learning how to have multiple emotions. It's okay that I'm learning how to do both. I have plenty of time to relearn this. I didn't learn this as a kid, and it's okay that now I have time. I was thinking when you're sharing about so many I've noticed this on Instagram. A lot of the videos that go viral, at least that show up in my feed, are like little kids being so excited about like a Christmas present, or a parent like just crying because their kid gave them a Christmas present that really moved them.
You and I have very different feeds.
Or like you sent me the other day this picture of this little fox being so excited to see this cat that it grew up with. But I get animal videos all the time of like some animal that's so excited to see its owner, or so excited. Like there's some human fascination where we see a little kid who is so excited about ice cream. And like, there's something about that unrestrained joy that is so like, our souls want that. We desire that. And it's so easy to lock those parts down. Yeah,
especially when you're scared of disappointment. Scared of like
disappointment or criticism, both things,
criticism. Yeah. If I have unrestrained joy and then all of a sudden it can easily be taken away, I don't want to feel the pain of getting something that only gets taken away. So I'd rather live numb. Yeah. I think that there's something about learning how to just risk and be like, I had to give myself permission. I give myself permission to be disappointed, right? Like I literally would say that to myself, Justin, you have permission to experience disappointment. There will be disappointments that you experience in this life, but there'll also be immense joys that will fulfill you as you allow yourself to go on that journey.
Yeah.
And I had to tell myself the truth is that the disappointment can be repaired. It can be taken care of. Because as a kid, oftentimes, from my experience, that disappointment didn't get comfort, care, nurture to it.
Yep.
And I think that as adults, when we can actually learn to express comfort, care, and nurture towards ourselves, and we can receive it from other people and learn how to receive it, then it's really, it's free game to run after allowing yourself to be joyful and have expectancy inside of your life and hopes. Because at the end of the day, if those things get taken away from a moment or fall apart in a moment, you can actually know somewhere inside of you like, oh, but there's a way to repair it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, so one of the things is the more I've learned to be in tune with my authentic voice, my authentic self, my little kid inside, then the more I can nurture and take care of that. So like, if you would have asked me a couple of years ago, what does your body want to do with this emotion? I'd have no idea.
Yeah.
And it's taken the process of learning and practicing tuning in, and a slow, like safety is slow. Like you don't just love somebody one time and then they open up their entire soul to you. Like you need to be safe over and over and over again for them to be able to fully feel safe. And so I'm learning slowly how to pay attention to my little kid inside. Like obviously I've been working on it for decades, but I'm still having my counselor be like, you're more worried about out here than you are worried about in here.
Yeah.
Be connected to you. And so I feel like this is a great journey for us to all go on to actually learn how to connect to that inner voice. And then that leads us in getting the repair and the comfort that we need. Then we can say, oh, I'm feeling really alone. I need some comfort. And then you can notice ways to get comfort. One of the things I was thinking when you were talking about being afraid to get disappointed, I think you can find safe ways to enlarge your joy. So like a great thing would be, I'm going to let myself get excited about sunsets.
Yeah.
Sunsets happen regularly.
Yeah.
It's not like if I get excited
unless you're
about
in Seattle. Yeah. Then that's a bad idea. You're going to be disappointed.
But like something that you're like, or like if you live near the ocean, I'm going to allow myself to get as excited as I want around the ocean.
Yeah.
Basically you pick something that you know that
firm,
there is
stable,
some stability
consistent.
to. Yeah. Because I think what we think is the way that I'll build my joys, I'll get my hopes up about this big thing. And then when I get disappointed, I don't know how to bounce back. Where if we're practicing, like every time I see a friend and they're happy to see me, I'm going to let myself be happy. every time I see a friend and they hug me or it looks like they want me there, I'm going to let myself feel happy about that.
That's good.
Every time I see a dog and it's excited to see me, I'm going to let myself feel excited about that moment. Every time that I watch a movie and I get that warm, cozy feeling in my body, I'm going to let myself feel excited about that moment. It's the beginning to look for ways, because I think that's how you find childlike joy, is through finding these little moments.
Yes.
And then allowing yourself to enjoy them.
It's interesting because going back to the action figure collecting, even in the beginning of us being together, I would go into a Target or a Walmart or whatever, and then I'd run to the toy and I'd find an action figure, and I'd let myself actually feel the excitement.
Oh my gosh, I found it.
Singular moment as a grown adult.
Totally.
And I started over and over again over the course of hundreds, if not thousands of action figures, letting myself literally just enjoy the hit of the experience and be like, oh, okay. But what it overflowed into is it built into this bigger sense of like, it's okay for me to enjoy life and embrace these little tiny moments. Cause I could be like, oh, whatever, it's just an action figure, or whatever. It's like, whether it's like somebody giving you a cookie and be like, this is so fun, I got a cookie from someone, or someone, saying a nice thing. Like, will I allow these little things to turn into a bigger sense of joy and pleasure?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to add
and will
something.
I allow, and let me say one more thing.
Yeah.
And will I allow myself to feel those negative feelings a little bit too? And you don't have to go into like what I was talking about, actually acting it out. But there's moments where you want to cry and you're talking to one of your friends, and instead of just pretending that you aren't feeling anything, you could actually say, wow, I'm feeling a little bit like I want to cry right now.
Yeah, you could begin to narrate.
Just narrating. What it is it's giving that part of you. We're really talking about connecting to your authentic self.
Yeah.
And not having a plastic version of you on the outside, but finding out how to be congruent with yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of healing in our own lives happens just when we're congruent with ourselves. Most of our trauma is built on that disconnection between us and ourselves.
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to add is that when I started connecting to that child's self, that's where my creativity began to blossom in just incredible ways, right? Where I began to engage it to the point where that's where I got my creative idea for my book, The Tree of Life, that I wrote, which I ended up, for those of you who don't know, I did an audio version of that as well. It's on Amazon. And that's not even a sales pitch. It's actually something that's like, you should go buy it and experience it.
It helps remind you of childlike wonder.
Yes.
It helps reawaken childlike wonder.
I wrote the book actually
as you were awakening your childlike wonder.
Yes. And I wrote it as a children's novel for adults. Was the idea of like, this is actually being written to the adult that doesn't know how to be a child.
Yep.
And also, as a side note, when I did the audio, I got to do all the voices, and that was my whole childhood, was doing voices. And I got to enter into my child self as I recorded the book and when I wrote the book, right? And there was something that came so alive in me that I did it honestly for me. If no one had ever bought the book or the audio book, I was like, but I did it and I'm alive with it. And that to me is part of the childlike wonder coming alive, is that we begin to do things that aren't unto some sort of performance or some sort of higher purpose.
Yes.
Right? It's like, no, I'm not like, maybe no one will ever be affected by this.
For the fun of it.
Like I have my friend Jason, my buddy Jason, he got into making fly rods and flies, right? And he became one of the most skilled master craftsmen of these. Yeah. And he sold a couple just because people wanted them, right? But he was like, no, I don't make them for me. I do it for me. If you want a rod, I'll give you one. Or you want to come with me, I'll let you try out my flies.
Sure.
But this is all for me. And that is so amazing because something came alive in him by getting to participate inside of that. And it fueled so much of his healing journey, even in participating
Well, and
there.
so much of us we have such a big to-do list and we have so many things we need to get done that we forget to do things for the sake of fun. And we forget that is an invigorating part of life.
But it's amazing what gets unlocked inside of us when we'll honor this part of our being and we'll allow our child self to come alive. We'll also see our creativity flourish. And then all of a sudden, things will come out of us that were dreams inside of God's heart before we ever stepped foot in the earth, right? And so I think that's one of the most beautiful things that we can do in the process of learning how to come alive is this right here.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'm hearing that would be important is ADD brain. One of the things that I've recognized from this episode is if you want to recover your childlike self, one pathway to it is to think of something you loved doing as a kid.
Yeah.
And find a way to do it as an adult. If you're like, I loved riding my bike, then find a way to ride your bike now. If you're like, I loved playing with action figures, find a way I loved playing with Legos, get a Lego set. If you were like, I loved playing spies with walkie-talkies, get walkie-talkies and have conversations with your spouse across the house. Like find something that brought you joy as a kid and re-engage it. If you loved puzzles, go get a puzzle and start listening to jams from when you were a kid and do the puzzle. Choose to take the time to find something that links you back to a good memory in your past. And what it'll do is it will start to release those endorphins in your life now. And it gives that sense to yourself, hey, I care about you and I care about you having good experiences.
As you're talking, I was reflecting on our friend group, our friend group is 20s, 30s, and 40s primarily. And we've done, is it Murder in the Dark? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Where we blacked out all the windows in the house. And I think about it and I'm like, we're literally adults playing an adult form of hide and go seek.
100%.
And everyone is their most child self.
Totally.
And I'm like, I was just like feeling this sense of joy about a whole group of a friend group that we've all continually attempted to engage this expression of ourselves. And I think that's something that I would challenge people is that as friend groups start learning how to like, hey, let me pull my friends into this. Because once you say yes to it and you pull friends into it, like you talked about Lauren earlier, it becomes contagious.
Yeah.
Where people suddenly like, yeah, I want to do that. That was so fun. We had permission to be kids again in the midst of a crazy life.
This is why I worked at the Adventure Challenge. I'm not doing a sales pitch for them, but their whole goal was to create adventures where everyone was doing something out of their comfort zone. So it wasn't vulnerable for just a couple people, that it was like, everybody felt the novelty together and it would help bring your childlike self out because you wouldn't know what you were doing enough to be able to pretend that you were a pro at it.
Yeah.
So everybody could just let their walls down and actually connect and be. And that's one of the things I love. And they have great books full of adventures. If you want to learn to be your childlike self, we could probably give them a promo code. They'd probably make one. Justin and Abi, and they'll give you a discount probably. That might happen. Might not.
Might not. If it does, you'll find it in the description down below. With that said, we got to kind of start wrapping this up.
Well, you know what? If you have a hard time with, did you just wink at me? Oh, that kind of gives me little butterflies.
Oh, butterflies.
If you have a hard time connecting to your childlike self, or you just want to connect more, you want to connect to your authentic self. When I'm talking about this outside version here, or that serious, or that version that's overwhelmed by your emotions and not feeling like you get to be a part of your own life because of that. Any of the things that have hindered your connection to your joy and childlike wonder, Living Fully Alive is coming. It starts March 13th. We feel so excited. We have so many testimonies every year of people's hearts being invigorated and awakened and coming alive. And I feel really so thankful for all the stories we've gotten to be a part of with this course. This is the course we created as the intro. If you're wanting to be a life consultant, we're like, start here. These are the major truths you need to know. This is like the broad foundation you need to know to work with people. So it's everything about how to be a human.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And we especially love the immersion program. That's been one of our foundational programs that's so critical in the change process, because it actually invites people into a collective community experience of healing and process. And so that's been something that's been very profound inside of that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's 20 plus hours of transformational heart content. And this is what it is. It's your operating system, understanding your emotions, identifying the forces driving your life. That's a good one. Connecting to yourself, the key to emotional healing, one tool to rule them all. Restoring relationships and finding peace, breaking up with judgment, shame, and fear, repairing the relationship with yourself, finding your authentic voice, humanity's most limiting mindset, take back your life, redefining your view of God, healing the beliefs dictating your life, and 7 keys to the transformation process. We have all this information. You can look on our website, justinandabby.com. You can look on my Instagram. We have so many reviews. And now we're just going to let you listen to somebody share their journey from LFA.
And before we do that, if you want to watch us on YouTube and you haven't found us yet there, you can type in Justin and Abi, that's abi.com/theconnectedlife.
Yeah, this one's a good one because I acted out a lot of things.
Yeah, you'll want to watch it.
Yeah.
Only you may have already listened.
If that's the case, then start watching them in the future.
Yeah, watch them all in the future.
Yeah.
Or
rewatch.
And without further ado, here is that testimony.
Validation was some of the biggest stuff that I got out of this course. Growing up, just realizing how much of a lack I had. And I was like, what is this? I don't need that. Getting into it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is life-changing.
Yeah.
I had a moment just kind of walking through like relationship with my mom where I was just like, every time I talked to her, I felt like this 8-year-old kid who's just like, validate me. And I would just go around the same circle every time I call her on the phone. And so then I got the tools of like, I actually can show up and validate my own heart and like walk through like the acceptance of like, okay, this is where my relationship with my mom, and I'm going to be okay if it never changes. And then like after that, I had a conversation with her where I felt myself like start leaning there. I'm like, hold up, I can show up for myself. And so I actually flipped the script and I like showed up and validated her, and the whole tone of the conversation changed.
Shut up.
And I was like, got to show up and be like, Mom, like, you know, you're doing such a good job. You raised 4 kids and it was hard and you didn't always have the tools, and like everything was different in that conversation. She got really soft. She wasn't really sure where to go with that, but it felt so different. And I was like, that was great. Like I did it. And it's still not like a muscle memory or anything like that. But like now I know that that's available, and I want to like start walking in that more and more until that is muscle memory of like, I can meet my own needs and be okay regardless of what is happening around me. You know, I see like that's where I want to be now, and I have the tools to start doing that. I am super grateful for that part of the course. And that was like the most life-changing thing for me.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.